In this episode, we walk through a BCG-style case with Jensen. Jensen is a great sport, but I definitely push him to the limits in this case. We walk through the beginning, we walk through the math, we walk through creative questions, and we close it up with some really insightful feedback and conversation at the end of the episode. We hope that you enjoy. Jensen is our mystery guest for today, and Jensen is going to be walking through the case, so I'm really excited to have him here. Jensen, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So just let everybody know who you are, what level you are, what level of prep you're at right now, and why you're excited to do the case today.
Sounds great. So thank you so much. My name is Jensen. I'm currently an analyst at Analysis Group, an academic consulting firm where I work mostly in healthcare and tech spaces. And I also work in our analyst recruiting committee and also lead AG Pride, which is our LGBTQ plus employee group as well at the firm. And in terms of my case prep, I am about 30 cases in, and I'm also a Black Belt cohort member as well. So and I'm here because of a moment of bravery that just came over me during a call with Jenny Ray and just decided to volunteer. And then, too late to withdraw, so I'm here. But I'm actually really excited and a bit nervous as well, but we'll see how it plays out.
So exciting. Okay, amazing. Well, we're so excited to have you. I hope that moment of bravery carries through during the case today. And we're going to get to see a lot of really cool stuff from you. So what I'll do is I'm going to pull up the case from my side. Nobody is going to be able to see this, including you. It's just going to be me. I'm going to run the case today in a BCG style. And so you are going to be in charge of using your structure to navigate with me through the case. The case has a lot of really good, robust information, and I think that you'll find the problem kind of fun and relevant with some of the things that we've been dealing with right now. So, Jensen, are you ready to go? Awesome. I am going to start our clock as I begin the background of the case. Okay? Goody. So here we go. Our client is a large B2B and B2C housewares and home furnishings retailer. We'll call them Furnizon. It sells over 200,000 SKUs of product manufactured by over 1,000 niche brands. The products featured on the site are all designed by up-and-coming European and North American artisans, but are manufactured in runs of at least 10,000 units. One of the sales channels is email, through which it sells a selection of products to customers. The company is headquartered in the US, and it has logistics capabilities to deliver its goods to 8 countries in North America and Europe. Despite many quick early wins as a business, growth has slowed. To combat slowing growth in the US, the company started offering aggressive price promotions on first-time purchases. The purchases are sent by email, but tied to a customer's phone number using 2-factor authentication to attempt to ensure the customer only uses the promotion once. In its first 12 months, the campaign has seemed like a winner. It produced very high response rates. However, management is concerned because profitability has continued to decline. We've been called in to analyze the promotional campaign and determine what, if anything, the client should do to improve its effectiveness. Do you have any questions about the background?
Yes, so before I dive into my questions, could I just run through what I just noted down to see if I got everything right?
Absolutely.
So we have a B2B, B2C houseware firm called Furnizon, and they have about 20,000 SKUs, 1,000 niche brands. So really big, all sorts of things kind of clients here. And they sell mostly through emails to the US and Europe as well. They've been experiencing slow growth, so they offer this kind of first-time purchase promotions through emails, but also having this phone authentication, two-phase method that they do it through. They are still worried about how this seems to work well at first, but now slowing down, and they want to for us to help to see how to figure this out. Maybe turn this over.
Absolutely. I think you caught everything. The only thing, Jensen, that I want to make sure we got is that there are 200,000 SKUs of product. I don't know what number you said, but I feel like it might not have been that. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page about that one.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. So I have a few questions before I start diving into this case. My first question is with regards to this idea of a slow growth and what the objective is. I want to clarify that a little bit.
Yep.
I want to ask, so are they looking at a certain number that they're targeting to, do they want to turn this into from a negative to positive profit, or what are we looking at here?
So, actually, we don't have any information yet about profitability, but we're, of course, always interested in that, especially if we feel like we've grown to a place that we're satisfied with that. In terms of growth, I wouldn't say that we have targets, but definitely reversing the decline in profitability would be important to us.
Sounds
Back
good.
to positive.
Reverse and decline. Sounds good. And just to make sure, this decline has been happening after the 12-month campaign. So we're at the end of this 12 month right now. So we're looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then I have another question with regards to the business model a little bit. So they sell through emails, and then they have this phone authentication-ish kind of method here. And I want to dig deeper into what that actually means. So by selling through emails, you mean that they do all their promotions through email, or does that mean that they ask people to send in prices or things like that? I don't think that's like way too 2000, but maybe.
So 2000, yeah. No, this is an e-commerce retailer. That's a great differentiating question. And so one of their primary sales channels that we're using, which could also be called a marketing channel, is just that direct email for consumers. But the primary focus of the email is to bring them back to the website. And so we have a website that houses all of the information that's like this.
Sounds good. And then my last question is just with the idea of these 2,000 SKUs, 1,000 niche brands, and then 10,000 units. So I want to get to know what exactly does SKUs mean versus 10,000 unit sell?
Totally. Yeah. So the batches of each product are in 10,000 unit batches, right? So we're not selling like 3 lamps of this kind and 11 of something. Every time we would put in an order, it would be for this very large manufacturing run.
Gotcha.
But their 200,000 SKUs are unique, different products, right? So a different tablecloth would be one SKU. If we had that in 5 colors, each one of those would be a separate SKU. And so the SKU is to represent an individual product in an individual color.
Sounds great. And I think those would be all my questions to start with. And I'm ready to just dive in to figure out how to reverse the trend and decline in growth for this firm.
Can I
take a few moments to start to brainstorm my thoughts?
Yes, take your time.
Thank you so much.
One of the biggest challenges with interview preparation for consulting is knowing what you don't know. And the best way to figure that out is to work with an expert coach. You can work with someone on our team for just one session where they can give you ideas for where you can build your prep. Or you can work with them for 8 or more sessions to make sure that you're 100% ready for interview day. Check it out at managementconsulted.com.
Yes, I think I have kind of a structure going on here. Could I go through with you about all the buckets I have to tackle this issue?
Let's do it.
So we have a problem of declining growth in revenue or in sales in general, and and in order to tackle that, I think there is definitely 2 things that we should look at here. Of course, the first most important thing is to look at revenue and how our revenue has been affected, and then the other bucket I want to look at is cost as well, because even though it's a slow growth in revenue, if that is associated with a significant decrease in cost, that will be, I guess, is fine as well. But yeah, we want to look at both things and see how the business is doing in general, even though revenue is our main concern. So with regards to the bucket within revenue here, I'm going very classic of looking at quantity and price. But with regards to quantity, I want to segment it a little bit more into looking at whether it's by the markets that we're targeting, so either in US or in other countries in Europe. But more importantly, I want to look at our quantity sold pre and post offering this kind of promotion strategy, because I think this is like a huge, big change that we made that would have impacted our revenue a lot. And the same with price as well. So price, I want to look at kind of our price pre and post offering this promotion to see what we sold at. And also on top of that, I want to look at somewhat of the market trend as well to see if there's things that happen with the market. So if there is a decline in the market and overall, then it's pretty much out of our control, and there's not much going on that we can do about it. On top of that, and I think, kind of pervading this question is of a price is also, I guess, should have added another market, but this is fine too, of looking at here in terms of price compared to other things going on in the economy. So if there's a slow in the economy, then, for example, if we're looking at right now, COVID, then I'm sure people might be less likely to purchase, niche brands, furnitures or things like this of this nature. So that will be everything within the revenue bucket. In the cost bucket, it's less important, as I mentioned, but we still want to look at it. So in terms of fixed costs, we want to look at how much more cost we're spending to roll out this promotion strategies and email marketing campaign or all of that. And also this two-phase authentication problem here, to see what's the deal with that and how much we're spending on it. And then variable costs as well, so to see if there's anything that happened with our product chain in general. So those would be all the things that I would look at. But of course, I would love to start with kind of the revenue issue, especially with regard to the quantities that we're selling, because it seems like a decline in growth in sales is more directly associated with quantity, first of all. So with that, unless you have any other preferences.
No, I think that sounds great. Jensen, I do just want to let you know that I have some data for you, but I'll just rely on what you're interested in. If I don't have data, it doesn't mean that it's not important. It just means that we're not going to consider it as a part of what we're talking about in the case. And so I'll ask you just to lead me through the data that you're looking for. And if I've got data on the things that you're looking for, I'll share it with you.
Definitely. So first, looking at the quantity of the product sold, I would love to look at the quantity of the product sold in the past 12 months and before that as well. So the past 12 months has been the period after we roll out the promotion, but before that as well, to see what the change is because of this promotion. So do we have any data on that?
So I don't have data on that directly. I do have some data that could be a little bit related to that. So I have the percentage of response rates from the promotion, and that might be helpful in kind of understanding, but I actually don't have the total volume. The response rate, in general, a response rate of 2% to a direct marketing campaign of this type is considered super successful. Mm-hmm. Amazingly, 8% of households who received this promotional email are taking advantage of the promotion and making a purchase within the first year.
Taking advantage. That's awesome. So we have 8% taking advantage of this, and 2% is already successful, which is a great thing to hear. So I do want to, in that case then, since we mentioned this issue of a two-phase authentication problem, and since we are looking at this, the success rate of this, I wonder if we have any studies or qualitative interviews or anything like that of that nature to see how this two-phase authentication issue is affecting this. Because it seems a little bit complicated for me just hearing about it. So
Yeah, it does. I can explain it a little bit more. The two-factor authentication, we use it because people often have 7 different emails, but only one phone number. And so it's an easier way to make sure that they're not redeeming this coupon multiple times. And one of the, so basically, like, that's why we use it. Two-factor authentication is the kind of thing that happens when you try to log in somewhere and they say, we just sent a code to your wherever. And so this would be used through SMS. So you would, send a message to them, or you would be trying to buy, you'd have to put in your phone number. It would send you a message to that phone number, and then they're capturing that is your phone number for it. That 8% of the numbers is actually the full redemption. So that includes everyone that goes through that two-factor authentication process, and it excludes anyone who drops off because of it.
Gotcha. That sounds really great. Good system. In that case, I wonder if so we currently have what we have right now. We're looking at revenue, and we have kind of data on the response rate to our promotion campaign. Is there and this is kind of the main way that we're selling our products through this promotion through this email channel.
There are definitely others as well, but this one is a primary one. important for us.
Definitely. And on that note, I kind of want to dig deeper into this since it's the main channel and see if we have any demographic data on who's taking advantage of this or any trends at all that we observe from when it started versus where it is right now.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I do have some data on that. So the target customers for the promotion tend to be young adults that live in suburban and urban locations, not usually rural locations. And they skew college educated. They are generally apartment, not house dwellers. And they usually live alone with a small number of roommates or with their significant others. In addition, they move on average every 1.5 years.
Move every 1.5 year, and then, roommates. Okay, so I think, this makes a lot of sense than just looking at this kind of moving rate, because just reasoning it out to myself, it seems like when we roll out this campaign, and my hypothesis is that people see this campaign and start taking to it, but then they just keep staying in their apartments, and of course they've already furnished one, so they really do it. So maybe if we wait until another, not just 12 months, but 18 months, and maybe there will be another wave of buying, even though there's not a sales associate to it. So
I actually have data on that for you, Jensen, if you want data on it. Do you want data on that?
Oh, I would love data on that.
Okay, amazing. So the lifetime value of the furniture is 6 years. What I mean by that is that this isn't the kind of furniture that you're going to pass on to your grandchildren someday. This is the kind of furniture that you use for a little while and then you kind of don't use it forever. But the thing that's tied to what you just said is that we do find that these customers that buy from us often will repeat their purchase. And those repeat customers tend to purchase from us for up to 3 years. After 3 years, they really do not purchase anymore.
We'll purchase up to 3 years. Sounds good. So we have kind of a predicament here because we do have this campaign that's been rolled in the past 12 months where people buy a lot of things that will last for 6 years, but their repurchase rate is only up to 3 years. So they definitely would not buy the same kind of products anymore. And especially, they might buy different things, especially when they move every 1.5 years as well. So on that note, I think, one thing that just qualitatively, I'm just thinking a lot right now is that we might see a resurgence in people buying at that 1.5 years mark. But then on that, I think we might have to do more look into the customers or customer surveys or look into what kind of products they've bought to see, what they will buy again in the future.
What kind of data would you want on that? What would be helpful in the clearest and simplest way to help us kind of identify what you're looking for here?
I think just sales data, what people bought would be.
Is what they bought the big driver? Or is there something else that you're looking for?
What they bought versus what they bought. No, it's not what they bought. That's the same main driver. I think what they bought, the rate of buying what the promotion offered, and then people buying the products with that promotion would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I have that for you.
Oh,
let me give you that detail. So, of the clients, I mentioned before that 8% purchase in the first year, right? And then of that, 20% of those clients, 20% of the 8%, repurchase in year 2. And then of that 20%, 50% of those repurchase in year 3.
Sounds great. Okay, so if 8% responding to the email chain and then 20% repurchase in the next year, even though they don't get to take advantage of the same promotions anymore.
Right.
And then 50% still purchase in year 3. So what we have here is that I think it gives us this gauge into how effective this one-time promotion is in the long run of the life cycle of a consumer for our product. Considering the return rate will be 20% without a promotion, and then 50% in the next year as well after that. So on that note, I kind of want to know if we have more kind of like exact numbers, or whether the quantity number or the average price numbers, I can actually go into doing some calculations on this to see if everything pays off or is worth it or not.
I do. And actually, Jensen, I've got details on this. I have details on the value of the promotion to us. And then I also have details on a potential alternative. And so I'd actually love to look at the numbers for both of them and see if there's any insights that we can draw out of them. Can I give you some more of those numbers?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, amazing. So the average contribution of the first year of activity is $15. Let me explain what that contribution means. Contribution is the retail price minus the cost of goods, minus the cost of marketing, minus the discount. Okay, the discount that we're giving is $100.
Wow.
In year 2 and year 3, the contribution is $50.
Yep.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
So my question to you is, across the entire pool of everyone that we are marketing to and offering this to, what would you say the total contribution is for these folks?
Definitely. And you mentioned that year 2 is $50. Is that minus all costs as well? Average contribution?
Yep. So it's evaluated the same way. I do think that it's important to note that in year 1, that amount, the contribution, represents the cost of all marketing, because we obviously only have 8% that are buying, and there is a cost for everyone. So that's why we're interested in knowing what the total contribution would be here.
Yeah. And
how would you lay this out?
I was wondering if there's also that 50% that purchased in year 3 as well. So I wonder what the average contribution for those are, because we only have data for year 2.
For sure. It's the same as year 2. So it's 50 in year 2, 50 in year 3.
Sounds good. Perfect. So the way I would lay this out of how I would approach this math is just to, I think because we're looking at the cost of marketing for the total, kind of the whole pool of everyone, I might want to take a more macro look at this and look at the total contributions for every customers for first year, and then total contributions for everyone for year 2, and then for year 3, and then minus all costs for all years. So we can leave out those costs of marketing that significantly increase in the first year out of the questions for the first year, but then not consider that in the next few years.
Good. All of those costs are actually already included in the contribution. So just to make it one step easier, that contribution includes even the marketing costs of the first year.
Sounds good. So we currently have average contribution of first year, which is $50, and then we offer this $100 promotion. So
actually, you don't have to do any math on that, because that 15, it's 1.5, just to make sure that's clear, 1.5 in the first year. That 15 is inclusive of that $100 number.
Gotcha. And for year 2, the average contribution is $50. But it's also has minus all kind of costs as well. Yeah. So 15 plus 50, and then plus another 50 as well. That would be 115 for all 3 years for one customers. For the total contributions for customers for all 3 years.
Now that would be for a single customer if they went the whole way through. How do we weight that by our total customer pool to figure out what the actual value is?
Oh, gotcha. Because we have only 20% who will repurchase in year two. So I think for the total pool, it will be 20% of this $50 for the second year, which would be about $10. Just wait it out for second year. And then 50% of that for year three as well, which would be 50% of that $10 average contribution. So I think it will be about $5 for year three. So 15 plus 20 plus 10 plus 5 would be $30 for estimate total contributions for customers throughout their life year.
Okay, what do we think about that?
I think this would be very low considering we're offering a discount of $100. And I'm sure, So, I mean, so I wonder what the elasticity would be if we try to cut less of the promotions or anything like that to see if we can maybe offer only $90 discount, but we get $45 total contributions or something like that.
Great. Okay, well, we do have an alternative that we wanted to look at, as I mentioned. So the client estimates that it could achieve a 3% response rate at the start if the amount of the initial discount was lowered to $20. It also estimates that the number, not the rate, but the number of repeat purchasers in subsequent years would be the same as it is currently. Right, so the percentages of that initial percentage would remain the same, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
The contribution in subsequent years, in years 2 and year 3, would also be the same.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So this is good. So instead of offering $100 discount, they're offering only $20 discount. And then with that, they get 3% response rate instead of 8% response rate. So I guess in comparing this 3% to 8%, I will able to get the ratio between the total amount of customers among the two groups, and then use that percentage to see what the kind of total contributions that we would get out of that would be. So 3% compared to 8% is 3 over 8, and then 3 over 8, and then I will impose that upon the kind of total contribution for all customers on average that we got for the $30. So that would be 30 times 3 over 8.
And actually, by the way, Jensen, just something that might be really helpful here is that we could actually identify the number of the contribution. I have it for the second scenario. So rather than doing some math on it, it's $35.
Oh, $35. Gotcha. So thank you so much for giving that number. So $35 compared to so we have $35 total contribution right now. After giving $20 versus $100 discount. Let me just gather all my number out here. So $20 discount, and then we get $35 contribution. Good. And then on the other side, and then we have 3% response rate. And then on the other side, we have 8% response rate, $100 discount, and then $30 average contribution. So
35. So sorry, I don't think that those numbers didn't line up to what I have. Let me just double check them. 8% response rate for the $100, but we don't have to really factor in the $100 in this math. That's just a fact for the case. The $15, the $15 is for the purchase contribution. For the first one, and then in the second one it's $35 and a 3% response rate.
Gotcha. So $15 for the first group. That is throughout the whole life year, or just the first year? I think I calculated
30. So years 2 and 3 actually remain the same. So it's just in year 1 that it's different. 35 is different.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so looking at this, I think I will calculate the 8% compared to 3%, and then $15 compared to $35. So 3 over 8 versus 15 over 35.
And tell me why you're doing this math here, Jensen. Just keep me in the loop.
So I'm just calculating what kind of I guess for the first year, what would be the average kind of. So
we're trying to figure out how to factor in that 8% and the 3%, right?
Yeah.
How do we account for the difference in that? Let me give you a hint. And this we'll kind of have to go back a little bit to the last problem, but it won't be that long to do that. What we should do is take the 8% of the 15. Mm-hmm. And then take the 3% of the 35 as your baseline number. So rather than starting at 35 in the beginning, start with that. Mm-hmm. And then instead of giving me 20% of the second year, give me 20% of 8% of the second year.
20% of 8%.
Does that make sense? So we'll weight the first year by the percentage that buys to bring that number down in the first place. Because what you found me was still the lifetime value of an actual purchaser, not the lifetime value of our population, right?
Gotcha.
And so I think that's what we were missing here. So if we can weigh that in, then that would be great.
Yep. So 8% of $15, that would be 15 times 0.08. Which is 15 times 0.08. 15 times 8 would be 120. Takes out 20. That would be 0.12.
I think you're right before. 120.
Actually, no, 1.2.
Yeah, there you go.
$1.2. Yeah, $1.2 dollars. And then we take 20% of that to get what they get in year two. What we get in year two, which would be 1.2 divided by 5. That would be
let's make sure we've got that. So we take 20% of the 8% in year two, not 20% of the $1.20, because remember we have now a different contribution number.
Mm-hmm. So we have 20% of 8%, which is. So for me, I was thinking if we get the total number and then because we year two contribution is $50 instead.
Exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. So 8% and then 20% of 8%, that would be 8 divided by 5, and that will be 1.6%. 1.6% and $50. The 1.6% of $50, that would be 1.6 times 50. Go up. That would be 0.8.
Perfect.
Dollars. And then year three is 50% of the 20%. So even 50% of 1.6, which is 0.8%. And 0.8% of also $50, so it's just half of what we get for the year two, which is 0.4.
Perfect.
So 1.2 plus 0.8 plus 0.4, which is $2.4. Okay, and I'll do the same for the other group. I mean, for the alternative quickly. So 3% of $35 for the first year. So that would be 35 times 3 divided by 100. That would be 1.05. $1.05 for the first year, and then year two that would be 20% of 3%. So that would be 3%.
I have good news for you. It's actually not 20% of 3%, because we actually keep the same rate that we did in the first one. So you can just keep the same numbers that we did in the first one.
Perfect. Then we have 0.4, and then we have 0.8 as well. So overall, with this, we have 1.2 plus 1.05, so 2.25.
What do we think about this, Jensen?
This is really, I think these are good numbers. I think, these are good numbers, but then with all taken into considerations, I still think that the first, the current options that we're doing is optimal based on the number. So we can kind of
it absolutely seems that way. Yeah. However, I'm going to push you just into a little bit of brainstorming, right? We're concerned that even though this number looks better, there may be some ancillary factors about either, I don't know, we don't know what it might be, something that we're not factoring in about the difference between a $100 promotion, the message of that, and the $20 promotion. So I think your recommendation of keeping the option seems reasonable. However, what else should we be thinking about or factoring in that could be driving down profitability, whether with this promotion or without?
Yeah, so I think it's the promotion that we're offering might affect a few different things, and I think first thing that I want to look at, the first bucket, is kind of the perception of the brand. Perception of the brand, and and also, we've already mentioned that the rate of customers following up will be the same in the existing pool of customers, so that's fine. So among the perception of the brand, I want to look at kind of what kind of market we're competing in with this promotion that we're offering. So if we're offering this $100 discount, that might give the impression that we're competing in a market for furnitures or for goods that are less luxury or lower quality, versus offering this $20 discount might make us closer to the actual price of the product from the purchaser, and in that way it will just allow us to compete in a different market. Also, it might give the impression that's for customers, but also in the side of the people that we're buying from, so the niche brands that we're buying from, it might affect our kind of negotiating powers on what price that we're buying these products at. For example, if we're having to buy these products and selling them with significant discount, that might send the impression to these manufacturers that we're not able to sell these products effectively, and therefore they will not continue their partnership with us anymore. So those are the two things in terms of how it would affect our relationship with customers and manufacturers.
Love it. Thanks, Jensen. Well, we've run out of time, and our CEO has a quick pass that they make of us in the hallway. They want an update. Can you give us a quick update of where we are in the case so far and what else you'd like to do?
Yeah, so it's great running into you. We've run some numbers on the things that we've run some calculations on the numbers that you've given us, and we've come to the conclusion that we are fine with sticking with the current options or promotions that we're doing, and instead of the alternative. However, we might want to look into that further to see what implications of that would be with regard to perceptions of the brand by customers and also by the manufacturers as well. So nitty-gritty details, the current plan would give us a bit more of money per customers than with the alternative plan, even though we give higher discount for this one. However, things that we have not looked at would be some qualitative issues with regard to whether offering this significant discount would affect brand awareness, whether we'll be competing at a different market for less luxury goods, and also our negotiating powers with our partners. So for those matters, we would love to conduct more interviews or more qualitative work to see what to get to the bottom of the issue. But that would be the update right now. And for now, just stick with the option that we're going with for promotions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jensen. And congratulations, we're done with the case. Well done.
Thank you.
Are you sweating? How do you feel?
I feel okay. I think I came in with a sea of confidence that waned significantly by the half point of it. But yeah, I think the math is fine once I figured out what to actually do, because I'm not afraid of doing math. I'm just afraid of not knowing what to calculate. Yeah. So that tripped me up a little bit.
So I want to give you kind of my overall takeaway on the big pro and the big con. Okay. So I feel like your big pro was I saw 110% what I call the game factor. Like whenever I gave you data or asked you to do something, you were like, what a great idea. Like you were into it. And I want people on the call to really like focus more on that than on the analytics or the tactics that we went through, because ultimately that's the game changer. That's what makes me hire you in the second round. Okay. In the first round, I want structure and tactics, and I need a different level of insights than where you were. So I felt like there was insight gaps in some of what we were talking about, and I really want to focus on that. So I'm going to go back through each piece of the case as a quick debrief for you, just tell you what I was seeing, what I was thinking as I was going through it, and you know, kind of emphasize the things that I would want you to do differently as you're continuing your case prep, because I know you've got a little ways to go, and I'm excited to see where you go from here. So the first thing is that at the beginning, I thought you asked some really good clarifying questions, right? What is the actual tactic of this business? None of them were new data specifically, except you asked a little bit about growth targets, and I kind of said, you know, as much as we can, we want to return to profitability. You know, I think you can generally make the assumption that we are not going to be withholding data from you guys in a McKinsey, Bain, or BCG interview. There could be nuances for other firms, but for the most part, right, really focus your beginning questions on understanding the channel, the problem, the you know, the product, right, some of those things, and just really understanding that. So the question about SKUs, great clarifying question about the numbers. I really felt like you got it at the beginning of the case, and it only took you about 3.5 minutes, which is textbook. That's like amazing, right? Up to 4 minutes for the opening of the case. So your full opening was 3.5. Well done. Also, when you went into your structuring, you were 1 minute and 36 seconds, which was pretty good. But I did feel like your structure came across a little weak. And then interestingly, it took you 3.5 minutes to present your structure afterwards. And so that imbalance, I think, was reflective of the fact that you could have spent a little bit more time going a bit deeper, maybe even spending just a second numbering your structure. I wish you could see my paper. These are my notes about your structure. There's like lots of arrows and other things because I was having a hard time following you. And in a virtual environment, which we're going to be in potentially for a little while, you really need to make sure that you very clearly articulate. And I wouldn't want you to start with, you kind of spent almost a minute talking about like, this is a declining growth problem, which it wasn't really. Actually, it was a declining profitability problem was the bigger problem, right? Slowing growth, but declining profitability was the big problem here. And then you were like, and then it's revenue and cost. And then we finally got down to like the lower category of buckets. And so I just start with like that level that you're going to then sub the data underneath, and then make sure you're giving me an incredibly clear numbered piece of data as you were going through each one. And so I just, it wasn't super clear to me exactly like what structure we were operating in or exactly where we were going to go inside the case. So I felt like that was one big growth area. And that's really where the insight gaps, I think, began. Because at the beginning, what we're trying to figure out essentially is like, is this promotional campaign driving the profit decline or not? Right? That was really, I think, the fundamental question. And therefore, we're going to have to evaluate whether it's profitable or not profitable. And so I would have liked for you to go one level deeper at the beginning to the tactics that we got into later in the case of measuring the profitability of this actual campaign, right? Gotcha. And I think if you would use your structure for that, then we would have gotten there more quickly. Okay. Gotcha. Now, I do want to commend you because after that, you went through a series of really only 3 questions to get us into the math. And I, like, when you said, I'm not afraid of numbers, I felt that from you. I saw that. I felt that you wanted to get to the numbers. I thought you were asking very good questions. When I gave you the numbers, you didn't insight for me either, though. So again, like what you were really good at was getting to the numbers, and you only asked 3 questions to get there. What you weren't great at was when I gave you the numbers, giving me the insight. Like $100 as an initial like offer is ridiculously high, right? And I would have wanted you to kind of weave in some insight as we're going through it. Like that seems really high. I'm wondering if this is even a profitable prospect for them. And so you were asking the right questions, but not interpreting the data in a way that kind of would have added that value to me. right?
Gotcha.
Then when we got into the data, I actually really liked the way that you laid it out. And that first step, in this case, I've done it a number of times. It's not super clear whether we're supposed to weight the first step or not weight the first step. We really only figure that out oftentimes when we get to the second step. And so I felt super comfortable with your analytics. I felt like I could trust you. You had your math numbers were solid. Yeah, the one time you were like playing around with the decimals a little bit, and I was just like, we can just get there. I know you're fine. But I was doing that because I made the assessment pretty early on that I did not feel like math was going to be a flaw or a challenge for you. I felt like if I gave you a spreadsheet, you'd be able to figure it out. What I was looking for, though, again, was like when you came up with the insights, number one is higher, but it's really close. Number two, and these numbers are undiscounted as well. Number two has a much higher take in the first year. And so, one of the benefits of that when we're looking at that is that actually, in the first year, we have this like higher revenue per customer. So we also have only projections for option number 2. And so you said, kind of stick with number 1. I don't think that's the problem. I think that is the level 1 insight here. But I think that there's a level 2 insight, which is like the second one is pretty close. It might be worth testing. It might be worth seeing if we actually get a higher rate of return in year 2 and 3, because maybe we're attracting better customers. Maybe we're attracting better customers at higher margins. And so that's really where I pushed you to on the final creative question, right? Which is like, what if the customers that we're getting are actually not ideal in the long run using this promotion, right? And so you broke it down into 4 areas, but your 4 areas were all at one level. I would have rather had 3 areas with some subcategories underneath them to really push us into that place where we were evaluating that. And then your conclusion was super solid. It had all 3 pieces: the recap, the recommendation, and the kind of overview of the end part of the case. It was almost like a minute and a half, which is great. Minute and a half to 2 minutes is perfect. Your creative question was under 3 minutes, also bueno. So this was a BCG style case, which feels really hard because you have to find the data first before you get to use it. But overall, if that was a first round, I would have been like, I think Jensen can do the job. In a second round, I couldn't have passed you because the insight piece was missing. So I don't think it was a shoe-in for either one, but I really think that it's not that far for you between where you are to where you need to go. So what questions do you have for me?
I think, no, that was super great. I think I got tripped up definitely a little bit from the start with the kind of structuring of the case, because we're looking at the profitability of the whole firm in general, but not just the part of this marketing campaign.
Right. So I'm throwing both of those at you and trying to see, right, how big picture can you stay, but also focus on like the specific question at hand.
Yeah, and I think, it definitely tripped me up with like the amount of information, the data was given at the beginning. I was like, okay, it's 200,000 SKUs. That's like, that must mean something, right? Because especially you corrected me on it as well. You're like, no, it's not 2,000, it's 200,000. Just making sure you got that right. It's like, this must be an important piece of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that tripped me up a little bit because I was thinking big picture of the whole thing, not just this campaign. But I think everything else makes a lot of sense. And I don't have any questions. I enjoy the case a lot.
Let me show you. That's so good. Let me show you something here. Which is just like the kind of the data that I was working off of, right? So in a BCG case, I'm going to have some options. What I did was I italicized the things that you asked me for. Okay. What I really liked is that there was actually a lot of other information that you did not need to solve the case that would have been contextual that you could have asked me for. And I've put it here together, but it doesn't actually really matter. And there were a couple of questions that I could have asked you, but didn't need to. And so, like I said, that 3 steps, those 3 questions that you asked me got us to those numbers. Now, some of them you didn't ask me, but I gave you, and there really wasn't a clear way for us to do that unless I gave them to you. That wasn't a fault of yours. That was me needing to give you the information because there are 10 different ways that we could actually calculate this lifetime customer value, right? So I needed to kind of give you some of those numbers to shortcut it. And then I had to clarify it a few times because I'd given you some data and I could tell you weren't clear about whether it was included or excluded. And so again, I think if you had pushed to the insights early, you would have paid attention to that aspect of it a little bit more. But overall, I wouldn't say that not gathering that data was a key piece that was in here, right? And then this is the calculation that you did. I don't know what your paper looks like. You know, in an ideal scenario, you're tabling this out and it looks very clear. I felt like you didn't make any missteps in terms of mixing things up. So I would imagine that your notes are clear enough. And that's really all I care about, right? Clear enough is good enough as far as I'm concerned. When a model comes back to me, right, answering the question is good enough. Like perfection is not necessarily. I just need to not have errors or other dramas with it. And then this distinction in the second piece, I again kind of pushed you toward it and you picked it up really quickly, was that the rate we're assuming is going to be the same of 1.6% of the overall population purchasing, right? Yeah. And that's so whenever you hear an assumption like that, I'm just queuing you up to say, well, we're making that assumption, but what if that number is higher? Then that changes the game entirely. And so because that 20% and that 50% weren't off of the 3%, the 1.6 and the 0.8 stayed, then that's why it remains the same. Yeah. And the 20% and the 50% are really of the 8% in the first place. We could almost black those out in that box there.
Gotcha. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated it. I learned a lot.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Strategy Simplified. This case walkthrough was done by a volunteer who offered to showcase his skills in front of the broader community. If you would like to volunteer for a future live case walkthrough, please email us at team@managementconsulted.com. It's a totally free session to you as a public service to the rest of the community. In addition, if you liked this episode, please subscribe to Strategy Simplified and share with friends. We look forward to seeing you on a future episode of Strategy Simplified.